It does seem to be a.
I shouldn't say idiotic because someone on the desk might say yes, they think that it shouldn't, and it sounds like I'm calling them an idiot. I think that would be ridiculous. I think it's hard enough to make Aaron Rodgers work, by himself with his buddy Tim Boyle as the backup, much less a wildly popular, super famous, very confident, charismatic first-round pick that the fans will be very excited about.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a recipe for success. Like, I don't know, man. Like that, I think it is. Now, if I'm the Steelers, if Shedeur is there at 21, I'm drafting Shedeur. And what that means about my plans with Aaron Rodgers to me are almost irrelevant. Like, to me, Aaron Rodgers.
It would have to mean they get rid of him.
At this point, Aaron's made them wait so long. If I were the Steelers, I'd be like, you know what? Take all the time you want. We want to see how the draft plays out. You got nowhere else to go anyway. And so I don't think this would be a smart move, Greg, to have both of those guys in the quarterback.
Yeah, for me, if I'm the Steelers, I would love to have this option. If I can get Aaron Rodgers and play him right now, knowing that I don't have a future moving forward with Aaron Rodgers as my long-term answer, and Shedeur happens to fall, yes. If I'm the Steelers, this is the perfect scenario because they've been in positions where they've been trying to fill the void of a quarterback that they could have drafted years ago. You've alluded to this several years with some of the draft picks and guys that they traded for to eliminate that first-round draft pick and eliminate that season of having that under 500 season where they get a higher draft pick. This would be the perfect scenario for them to not only have a quarterback that they clearly would like to have under center for them this year in Aaron Rodgers, and then draft for your future if he falls to you at 21. Now, to your point, from an Aaron perspective, I don't think Aaron would love this. But at this point, again, speaking to what you said, if I'm the Steelers, I don't care necessarily about what Aaron's feelings are going to be hurt or whatever he feels. This is about us and sustaining the success and building a franchise based on how we feel it should be built, not based on a player that we're only going to have for part-time, which is just for 1 year pretty much.
Yeah, I'm with Greg on this one. I think this is perfect. I mean, you got a guy that could become your quarterback of the future. Aaron Rodgers is clearly going to be the starter. And so I got him starting. I got Shedeur Sanders for the future, and he can learn under Aaron Rodgers. Now, where I disagree with you, Greg, is if I'm the Steelers, I don't care what Aaron thinks. If I'm talking to Aaron before we sign him, and I'm like, you know what? If Shedeur falls, we love him. We think it'd be great him to back you up. You could mentor him, and he could be our guy of the future. If Aaron's like, no, hold on, I don't want a guy of the future. I want 2 years, or I don't want that scenario. I don't want you to draft a QB. Then I move on from Aaron. If I really like Shedeur, I'm like, forget Aaron. We'll get Shedeur. But I think as a concept, I think it could work. So
here's the thing. Aaron has said that he would mentor. He said he wants to mentor, which I question how good of a mentor he would be. So that's a different discussion, but he seems that he would be on board with stuff like this. Listen, I don't know who Aaron Rodgers is going to be as a quarterback in this moment in time. But let's just say that we think that Aaron Rodgers can be, an actual NFL starter, right? Where you're not watching him play and you're like, dude, this guy is no longer even a starter in the NFL, but at least a starter in the NFL where he's technically one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Let's just say he's that. Then I think if you have him and Shedeur, I think if you want Shedeur if you believe that Shedeur is actually a good quarterback and will have a lot of success in the NFL, then I think having someone like Shedeur sitting for a year, this idea that, Shedeur is like really popular, et cetera, and so you don't want to have him back up Aaron Rodgers and this could be a mess. Like, I don't see it that way, because having Shedeur sit for an entire year, have some of this hype die down a little bit, have some of this momentum die down a little bit, would benefit Shedeur. The problem is, and John Middlecoff kind of talked about this a little bit loosely before and talked about the NFL draft and how much of it is kind of like a reality TV show, and he kind of compared it to like Bravo and the shows that are on Bravo, like those I think it's like the house, like the Real Housewives shows. I think that's on Bravo. Or that's on E. It doesn't even matter. But those reality type shows, and that it's all drama and et cetera, et cetera. And he talked about how like that's what the NFL draft really is, right? It's all these kind of bizarre stories, and you have the main people that really lead the draft. That's where all the content really gets generated, and all the conversations and all the drama. And last year it was Caleb. And now this year, it's very much Shedeur. Think about they're talking about Shedeur, who potentially is maybe going to be drafted 21 or something, more than the actual what seems to be the foregone conclusion of the number one quarterback. So there's too much energy behind all of this. There's too much. I think it would greatly, significantly benefit Shedeur to sit for a year. And sitting behind someone like Aaron Rodgers for a year, quite frankly, is the best shield of that. Because you're right. If he sat for a year and it was behind Kirk Cousins or behind, trying to think of another, a Gardner Minshew, Russell Wilson, those types of quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, then yeah, it's going to be a little different. And you're going to have a lot of energy to get Shedeur on the field. What are we doing here? Jameis Winston just threw 4 interceptions. Like, what are we doing? Right? Like that would be, to me, that's messier. But getting Aaron Rodgers in the building, he's going to be able to know how to run an offense. We know that without a shadow of a doubt. If he has even just moderate success with Pittsburgh, that's like it'll be understood. It'll be understood within the organization. It'll be understood from the fan base. And it'll be like, listen, Shedeur is clearly our future. Aaron, at this point of his life, is obviously not our quarterback for the next 3, 4, or 5 years. Everybody knows that. Aaron knows that. Shedeur knows that. Everyone's on the same page. And when everyone's on the same page, you're on the same page. You're in a significantly better situation. You run into trouble when everyone's not on the same page. And I just think that situation, I don't believe is idiotic, as Nick put, and I agree with what Greg is saying, that I think it could be good. Now again, the things get messy is if Aaron Rodgers is really not that good, and then Aaron Rodgers kind of really shows his age, and then you throw Shedeur in there to kind of be a savior starting in like week 5 or something, and then he's kind of in a messy situation now, and then like things can kind of spiral. But if you believe in the talent of Aaron Rodgers, which obviously for the Pittsburgh Steelers you do, which is why you want him, and if you believe in the talent of Shedeur Sanders, which you would in this situation since you're drafting him, well then you let it run its course. You say Aaron is without a doubt our starting quarterback. Outside of him completely collapsing like we saw Kirk Cousins do, which we don't believe is going to happen, Shedeur, you're sitting for a year. It's just the way it goes. If Aaron Rodgers has, 2 interceptions in a game, don't start getting excited thinking that you're going in at halftime. That's not the way this is going to work, okay? This is not the way it's going to work. We're going to sit here for a year. And then again, like I always kind of talk about when sitting for a year, just always point to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. It was good enough for Andy, and it was good enough for Patrick Mahomes. It's going to be good enough for you, bud. Just the way it goes. All right. He's won multiple Super Bowls, MVPs, was the GOAT in waiting until the Eagles dominated them. So if it's good enough for Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, then it's good enough for you. He sat behind Alex Smith, nowhere near as great of a quarterback as Aaron Rodgers. And again, if as a quarterback, when you get drafted, if you can't understand that, if you can't grasp that concept, then quite frankly, you're already at a massive disadvantage in the NFL. I'm already concerned about your level of maturity and understanding, your humility, your intelligence, etc., etc., etc. So to me, that's almost actually probably like a perfect first test in the NFL. You either get behind it and understand it and accept it and embrace it, and if not, I'm already concerned now. I'm already concerned that we already drafted maybe not the right guy. So I see it kind of as a win-win situation in that regard. Not to mention, if Aaron Rodgers plays pretty good and has a pretty good season, it kind of sets the baseline of what you would expect for Shedeur now. And that if they struggle, if Shedeur struggles or any of these issues, you can point to and be like, listen, this offense with Aaron Rodgers was humming pretty good. They won, some big games against the Ravens and the Bengals and, the whatever. And you can point and be like, this, look what DK Metcalf did and look what, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it would give you a little bit of clarity, quite frankly. So yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it also gives the Steelers a little bit of pop, a little bit of energy, quite frankly. Again, I'm not 100% sold on Shedeur Sanders, and I'm not 100% sold on Aaron Rodgers in this moment in time either. I think he'll be serviceable, and I think he could still be a pretty good quarterback and have games where he can be really good, quite frankly. But in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers as a whole, again, it's hard for me to 100% see because they had Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and I kind of went back and forth with as I referenced in my last I think it was my last Steelers video, about the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Arthur, and Travis O'Shea talking about that he believes in him as a coordinator, that he just hasn't really had the right quarterback per se. And that is where it's interesting because I'm not super high on Justin Fields, and I was higher on Russell Wilson, but there is the potential that maybe Russell Wilson really has a little bit less life in him than even I was giving him credit for, and so that if you do bring in an Aaron Rodgers, there could be legitimate success there. So it's an interesting idea, and I think with Aaron Rodgers, the benefit of that is I think you get the clarity because it'll be very clear if Aaron Rodgers is just not good enough anymore, if he just lacks, the physical traits now, because he's going to understand the game. He's not going to miss reads. He knows how to read defenses. He knows how to ball. We know that. He knows how to run an offense. No question about it. You can't take that away from Aaron. You just can't. So it'll be very obvious that if the Steelers offense struggles, from my viewpoint, you'll really be able to say, dude, OC, like, what is he doing? What play call was that? What was the game plan, et cetera, et cetera? Or, you would be able to see, dude, the throws were there, but like Aaron just doesn't have the arm strength anymore, or, whatever it may be. Like, I think either way, bringing in a quarterback like Aaron potentially kind of at the very least clarifies the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and then would then help you troubleshoot any potential issues moving forward. Maybe the OC is not good. Maybe Arthur Smith is not good. And it's just like, Aaron Rodgers clearly can bring it and can clearly make awesome throws. And the play calling, play design, game plans, etc. were just completely unbalanced, ridiculous, didn't make a lot of sense, whatever it may be. So I'm like warmed up more to bringing in Aaron, mainly just because of what I think he could bring from an intellectual standpoint and what an offense can look like. And in fact, I think that's what Shane Steichen got out of Gardner Minshew and Joe Flacco, that you're just like, listen, when you give him a quarterback that can actually like play at least like a semblance of an offense with the Indianapolis Colts, like you can see what Shane Steichen can dial up. When you give him AR, who's kind of all over the map, yeah, the team looks all over the place. And maybe let's not blame Shane Steichen on that. Considering he almost got to the playoffs, he was a throwaway from beating the Texans and getting into the playoffs with Gardner Minshew, and had some great moments with Joe Flacco, who's obviously at the very end of his career. It's kind of crazy that he's even still in the NFL at this point. So it does offer some clarity, where I don't think you could then, question what you have, even from a personnel standpoint or even a roster construction as well. So I'm kind of talking myself into it more and more, just for the sheer fact of clarity. And sometimes that's what a season's all about, is just trying to figure out, what do we have here? What are we actually building? It's not about 2025. It's about figuring out what decisions do we make from 2025 onward. So I think I've convinced myself. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Aaron Rodgers and Shedeur Sanders going to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Do you think they'll be pitted against each other? Very clever. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.